Brown Dog Gadgets. Live.
Hi there, it's Josh from BrownDogGadgets.com. There we go. Thanks, Pete, and as always, here with producer Pete, hitting buttons. Yay! So, we've had a lot of requests lately from people looking at some of the projects we're doing, especially with Motion and Lego, and saying, how are you adding motors, Arduino, and microbit together in a Lego environment without a lot of hot glue? It's a legitimate question. I see so many people doing hot glue on Lego to get motors and servos working, which is not a good solution. And because there's actually really good options out there, both do-it-yourself options with a 3D printer or laser cutter, or commercially available inexpensive options as well to hook up your microcontrollers to Lego. And literally, we're going to cover like the gambit of stuff that we're doing here, other people's products from like Adafruit, amongst other people, because they have some good stuff. I'm just going to cover some options for people. So if you have questions, comments, or whatnot, throw them up because we'll answer them, because we're just going to show off like different solutions to doing this today. And follow us, by the way, on social media if you like the stuff you see here, because we do all sorts of DIY projects and whatnot. If you're a teacher or librarian, we'll send you a free sample if you haven't heard that already from us every single time. I'll be drinking this wonderful Dr. Pepper today as I power through my afternoon.
Did you switch from cans because they were green?
Yes, we had green cans, which did not work well with our extremely real and not green screen brick screen. So let's go to the overhead. Overhead right now. Oh, look, people are commenting. But it's mostly just Andy, our curriculum writer.
Says audio sounds great.
Thanks, Andy, curriculum writer Andy. So sugary.
You got it.
All right, so first and foremost, let's take a peek here. This is your standard Lego servo. This is actually a medium size, like official is like medium size Lego servo or motor, DC motor.
Yeah.
You can buy these off Amazon for like $12. Lego's had this for years. They use this proprietary hookup system to hook their electronics together. It's 4-pin with I think it's a 9-volt battery pack that they use with it, and there's a lot of nice options like remote controls, switches, all sorts of fun Lego cred. They even have servos as well for this system. But these have a nice lot of torque in them because they have a nice little gearbox in them, as well as the fact you can make your own gosh darn gearbox because it's Lego and Lego Technics. And a lot of people who make custom things will often do a gear reduction to give a bit more torque or to slow this thing down. But the cool thing is these little adapters, these little connection points are just a ribbon cable. And if you want to get really fancy, you can cut them apart to gain access to them internally. Now, for instance, right now I'm just have a regular 9-volt battery because we took apart an extension cable here to do this, and Lego. This is the official Lego route, and by the way, this is probably the most difficult way to hook up a microbit or an Arduino to a Lego system is by cutting it, literally buying an extension cable, which is what we did, so we have to cut the cable off of our nice, expensive Lego motor, and then breaking it apart. I think these cables are like $10 as well off Amazon. They're not awesome, but you can just cut, strip, and we tinned and added some color coordination here. So we could then, say, plug this into an Arduino. We could just use some screw terminals, some wires, some jumper cables, and we could hook this up to an Arduino or a microbit. But you'll need an adapter and a relay, right, Pete?
You can use a relay, or you can just make a fancy, get a motor controller chip,
motor
or like
yep.
a MOSFET or something in there, you know.
But it's really awkward because you need extra hardware in addition to your Arduino or microbit. You just can't plug it in.
Right.
And quite frankly, that's kind of lame. And also at this point, you've already spent $10, $15 on one of these guys. If you wanted to not destroy the cable, you probably spend another $10 to get an extension cable to destroy. And that's not a great option because it's still, you have to have a 9-volt power supply and then a relay. It's a lot. And for simple things, this is way overkill because it's a lot of power on this for what this has a lot of kick behind it. In fact, one of the projects we're showing off soon is a gigantic Lego Ferris wheel we put together. This thing is 2.5 foot tall, and it's actually, and the build has a spot set up specifically for one of these guys. So we're moving a 2.5 foot tall Ferris wheel with one of these. That's a lot of motion to handle. So it is way overkill for most things.
The nice thing I like is that the spacing's right, so you can put it on bricks and then the axle's at the right height. So like if you were doing your own thing, getting it in there the right height would be hard.
You need another plate on here, Pete. It's not exactly, you're not, as you say, it's the right height. Like, no, you're about.
I was in a rush.
Yeah, whatever.
It's pretty close.
That's the biggest thing too with other options. Spacing is the biggest concern.
Yeah.
Pricing, if pricing is no issue, go this route. And if you're mechanically inclined, do this, or just have a couple of these extension cables you've done this to with screw terminals or whatnot at the end. It's easy if you can cut, strip, and lightly tin the end. Yeah. But this is probably the most effort it'll take, and it's way overkill. So I'm gonna put this guy to the side because this is the overkill route, but also the official Lego overkill route because now some Lego people are super into official Lego crap only. So again, by the way, have any questions or comments or like, hey Josh, you're totally wrong?
Yeah, look, Liz says thumbs up.
Oh, hey Liz.
Look at that.
From
Thumbs
Winemaker.
up.
We know Liz Gallo.
Do you know? All right,
Liz
cool.
Gallo is a cool person.
Says thumbs up.
So let's go with the next like kind of opposite route, like super simple, super cheap and DIY, and go from there. So the super DIY version would be to grab like a gear motor like this, and then 3D print your own adapter. So this is from, our original Kickstarter campaign for our Crazy Circuit system, which is why it's on this prototype board with a little 3D printed hood. But you can go to thingiverse.com and 3D print off a variety of like motor shaft to axle adapters. The biggest issue with that is just making sure your 3D printer can print these off well enough and that your spacing is right. You'll probably have to print off a few of these because, too big, too small, too big, too small.
You know the trick for that, Josh?
What?
Like you print if it's too small, you just print like 101% or something.
So
you just kind of up or down the percentage, and you get a good fit eventually, usually.
And at least the axles too, because it's a nice 4.
Yeah.
It's a cross section here, a little X. I've also found too, sometimes it helps if you use like a hair dryer or like an embossing gun to heat up one of these sections, shove it on there and let it dry again, or like a little bit of glue and shove it on. But this is a really easy way just to hook up a standard DC dumb motor to a system. That's what we're doing with this, just 3 volts into this guy, and it works fine. I mean, random Lego thing. It's not official Lego. It works pretty well for what it is, and if you have a 3D printer, it's cheap. You can print off a ton of these. If they break, who cares? They even have a variety of like 3D printed gears. Thingiverse and a few other websites have tons of 3D printable Lego compatible components, both custom and like official Lego designs, but in 3D printed format. So this is like the cheapest route to go, especially if you already have a few like motors. And I highly recommend these little Metal Gear motors. It's this little metal gearbox in here, and they're anywhere from like $3 to $5. And get one that has a nice gigantic gear reduction, so it's slow but powerful.
They got some good torque, yeah.
They have a lot of power, especially when you add like a 3 volt to 6 volt of AA battery power to them. It's like 6. I think this one might be like a 60 rotation per minute, so 1 rotation a second, which is pretty slow when it comes to like a little DC motor. But this is a really easy way. 3D printing, Thingiverse. If you have a 3D printer, our cruddy little monoprice $180 3D printer prints these off just fine. It doesn't take much. So this is the easiest, like cheapest way if you already have motors. And that in mind, let's go on to a slightly more expensive, but a better version of this. Ooh, yeah, thanks, Pete. So to the side, we'll actually keep this here as comparison because Adafruit, of all people.
Oh, yeah.
Adafruit, which is why I brought them up earlier. They sell our BristleBots, by the way. So thank you, Adafruit, for selling our BristleBots. So they have this interesting little wheel set you can buy off their website. I think it popped up last year. And the reason I like this isn't because of the wheel, which, by the way, the wheel is very nice. It's a very nice Lego wheel. But it comes with these 2 adapters right here, which can hook up to Metal Gear motors and also these plastic little geared motors as well. These are also a common one you'll see from like SparkFun and Adafruit. But this is the exact same motor as this, but with the Adafruit adapter on there, and that comes out to an axle as opposed to a female axle receptor. But that's nice, and it's meant to work with here. And they have the 2 different injection molded adapters. That's great, especially if you're doing like a Lego car, something that you want motion in already. You get a good wheel, and you get the adapter for a couple bucks. And then the Metal Gear motor is just the same you'd use anyway. I think this is 150 RPM is this one. We have a couple different ones we've had for ages from old kits we sold. You can see the inside of that gearbox. Because it's just standard size, standard axle. Same with this. Works just fine, pretty easy. And again, it's a solid Lego wheel as well. Because some of those can be kind of pricey. And it's nice and flat and shallow. I like this because there's not a whole lot of extra. So you can easily just get in there. The downside of this, though, is how the heck do you then attach this to your Lego? which is why like we on this guy here, we put on one of our Crazy Circus components so we could kind of funkily work it in there. But you're still in the situation, how do you get this thing to stay on your Lego without hot glue?
Yeah.
Which isn't easy to do, which is why you probably want to find on Thingiverse or whatnot, again, a 3D printed thing. But having the injection molded, this being injection molded, is just so much stronger than your 3D printed plastic.
Yeah, and it's better tolerant.
Oh, so much
It's gonna
better.
fit, no matter what, yeah.
So we really like this approach. And we really thank Adafruit, hey, thanks for putting this out there, which is why we got these to test out because we thought it was just super cool. And a couple bucks on Adafruit. This is the TT N20 Lego wheel off Adafruit.
Kind of, is it grippy or?
Yeah, it's got grippy. It's got
cushion?
it's got a nice little grip on there. It's as good as any, like we have a bunch of Lego wheels in a bin over here.
Yeah.
It's as good as any of the official Lego wheels. It really is. If you had told me this was an official Lego part, I'd believe you because it's nice quality injection molded.
Yeah.
For that. So yeah, this is the Lego wheel from Adafruit. Just go to Adafruit, type in Lego wheel. It's there. So definitely worth giving a whirl. And especially have motors already. Otherwise, Adafruit has those motors, or you can find them from a variety of sources. Metal Gear or this gigantic gear reduction box. I know people like to use, by the way, these types of motors with a motor controller frequently, which is what I see often people doing for Lego projects. So they'll use an Arduino with a motor controller shield, then hooked up to something like this. And then they can have nice control over this kind of gear reduced motor. Yeah. So that's a really good option for hooking then. Oh,
Adafruit, there you go. Yeah, if you don't know, now you know.
I like how you went to text edit, took a picture of text edit to throw it up on the screen, as opposed to doing the overlay, because the overlay would come up just like blank.
You're welcome.
Pete's great. That's really good. Good work. That's
Okay.
good making, Pete.
Yeah, no problem.
So anyway, that's the Adafruit approach. It works well. It's just a cheaper way of doing literally the same thing you do with a 3D printer, but in a much nicer quality, which isn't very expensive either. So there's that option. But still, what about servos? Because yay for servos. But actually, before we get there, I'll take that back. So last motor we'll show you, just straight up motor, is this guy, which is from a variety of the exact same component from a company called KittenBot. Now, we actually sell these. Disclaimer, we sell this motor. Actually, all three of these guys. And these are just the exact same shell. And this guy's just a dumb motor, 2-wire dumb motor. This is a 270-degree servo, and this is a continuous rotation servo. And so all three of these just have a little Lego axle on the end. So anything you want to just plug in there axle-wise, if I can actually do things properly. Well, they actually work. There we go. But you can find those off our website. I'm pretty sure like robotshop.com. A lot of places carry these. They're just type in like Lego Servo. These pop up left and right. They're nice because they have the Lego receptors on the bottom. They have different connectors here, here, and here. I wish they had connectors on like one of these sides just so you can lay it flat. And that works really well. It also works well for hooking up to, say, different chassis. But this being just a 2-pin dumb motor is great. Just give it, I think about 4.5 volts up works really well. 3 volts, it's okay. But if you kind of go a little higher than that, say like 3 AA or 3 AAA, this works really darn swell. And the tolerances are pretty good, and you get a lot of use out of them. They are plastic gears on the inside. You can totally tell. Also, I saw a picture online where someone disassembled one, which we're not going to do. Psychic powers. But they work pretty darn well for what they are, and they're not very expensive for one of these. They used to be like a 4-pack for $50 on Amazon. Ooh. Yeah, they were horrible. We don't sell them for that much. I think we sell them for about $5 each, which isn't that much more than a standard micro gear servo will run you off Amazon. But they're nice. They work well. They're pretty solidly built, and you can run it dumb, off a dumb power supply off of here. So as dumb motors go, this isn't shabby, but $5 or so, it's Lego compatible. But you still have to figure a way to go from here to jumper cable or solid core wire to a battery.
Yeah.
Or you
Josh,
cut and strip.
When you say dumb,
meaning you can't. It just goes. A dumb motor just goes.
It's either on or off, full speed or not at all.
Yeah, there's one speed, and that's determined by the voltage, as opposed to a servo, which you can tell it, hey, go to 15 degrees and stay there 3 degrees. And if you want to, say, control a dumb motor in a smart way, you have to have a special circuit board, a motor controller board, to handle that extra work, such as with an Arduino with a shield, or I know there's a motor controller like add-ons for microbit. That's just, it's another component. Again, not super expensive, as those are pretty cheap and readily available. However, it's still another part to buy and work with. But as we move from motors into servos, KittenBot also has, again, the exact same thing, but 270-degree servo, 360-degree servo, 3 wires. This you can, say, plug into an Arduino, such as, here's one. You can just plug into an Arduino or a microbit that has the right pin headers or adapt it some way, then control it saying, hey, go to this spot and stop, this spot and stop. For instance, by the way, if you want a good example of that, this is our little tiny rover. We've shown this off before. This time, instead of using an Arduino, we're using a microbit on this guy. And we have 2 of the 360-degree servos, which are just kind of a smarter motor. They're not a great motor control. They just kind of go, they tell you go forward, go backwards, or stop. There's not a whole lot of speed control on them,
right,
which is a big downside. And we just have this running a very basic forward, backwards kind of routine. I'm going to plug this guy in. Hopefully nothing explodes. There we go. And with this guy, we also have a, we have a distance sensor on the front here we're not using.
We are using.
Oh, we are?
Oh, yeah. It's all working.
Oh, I didn't realize you actually had the distance sensor hooked up.
Yes, it works.
All right. Oh, look at that. So, again, you can make a very easy, like, Lego autonomous creature. And, I mean, we went the simple route. We're just using a couple of, these aren't even wheels. These are pulleys with a wheel on, like a rubber wheel on them.
Yeah.
It's like the simplest Lego wheel hooked up directly to the axle. And, I mean, it's a box. The most fancy thing we have on here is we've got a Lego ball bearing in the back. Pretty sure this is a knockoff ball bearing off Amazon or eBay, but as that third point of contact. So this is a really easy way of adding motion or control with a Lego compatible servo or 360-degree servo. And again, microbit running fine off here with 3 volts of power. Not super awesome, but it runs pretty well. There's a lot of ways of doing that. And also, again, from Arduino, we've done the same thing, too, with one of our Arduino boards with actually one of these guys right here. And that's actually throwing out 5 volts at it. It runs a little bit better. Yeah. But, I mean, for what we're doing here, it's perfectly fine. There's not a whole lot of weight to this project. If you actually want to add more torque, we could add some gearing in.
Yeah.
So
we tried to make the smallest kind of little Lego robot we could.
This is as simple as you're going to get. It's literally 2 continuous rotation servos, little wheel on a platform with a ball bearing. There's not any way to make this more simple with a Lego environment. And a spot to hold our AA batteries.
It's perfect.
Yeah, and we threw on the distance sensor in the front. This is a 3D printed distance sensor holder. There we go. Yeah. Off of Thingiverse. We just found one like, hey, that works. Somebody had a nice design. It fit on there. It looks good. 3D printers, great for making like fake Lego adapters. Yeah. Yay. Now, so that's this from KittenBot. Now, KittenBot also has a new design they put out, which I don't know if they're shipping this yet or if you can find it most places. They sent us these as samples to check out. This is like, I call this KittenBot Brick. Oh, by the way, they're from KittenBot, but the official term for these are Geek Servo.
Geek Servo.
Geek Servo is the official. Right. Yeah, whatever. No, don't type it in. Put it in. Oh my God, he's going there. This is different. There's no female or male Lego receptors on here, but there are a lot of little holes on here for sticking pegs into. So you have some different options here for building different types of projects. I think they're trying to do something very similar. Like this is a very similar version to the official Lego motor or servos they have in the way these are designed and the spacings on here. But there's no female or male Lego receptors on here, which the servos and motors have.
Is that a more like Lego Technic?
Lego Technic,
kind of?
Yeah. But the cool thing is they've actually got the servo. It's I think the exact same probably gearbox as this, but they've actually got spots on both sides. The mechanism. So you have 2 sides here. Both sides will rotate at the same time. And this being the servo, it's kind of nice. You have 2 different outputs for their left and right, which is cool. And they have just a dumb motor, a red dumb motor version. And I think they're going to have a continuous rotation at some point, keeping the same color scheme. But these are kind of nice. I mean, I could definitely see like there's advantages to having this as an option. I kind of like using just the way these guys right here, the other version, because they work really well with this like basic chassis. This is official Lego part. I forget the name of it. Mm-hmm. It's like a 4x something, 4x12, 4x10. But these are pretty cheap. But they work good as a chassis because these guys fit perfectly on the underside using a couple of pegs. And I'm pretty sure that's what they were going for with this. Mm-hmm. So if you want to make a really nice and tight, compact little thing, you can do this as opposed to what we did on here. This was just because Pete's like, I'll use random parts we have. Sure.
Yep, I used whatever we had.
Yeah, we could do the same thing on here. And I think I might have done this ages ago with a different setup. But yeah, this works really well. Or you just connect, say, two of these together, chassis together across as well to make a double-sized one. But this works really, really well with these other type of Geek Servo. Plus, you have the extra options of male and female connections. Yeah. The only upside of this is you can put a very long axle shaft in here and have this come out much further as opposed to this. And I'm pretty sure they're also going with these as well, being a similar physical size, that you could hook these up like this or have one in the middle and have like the straight across drive shaft. I think that's the right term. I'm not a car person. But you could actually fit this as well, like here in the middle, and have this go up on the inside of here, because this will fit perfectly inside. So there's some good possibilities with this guy, except he doesn't fit that way, does he? Oh, nope, it doesn't line up. Never mind. I say, this would be awesome. It fits right in there, but it doesn't. This does not line up with any of these holes. So, anyway. But there's some good options for this out there, and I hope this becomes more available. I don't think we're going to carry it because we're not going to use this with the kits we have. And we don't sell enough of these as they are to make it worth our time. I'm sure something like Adafruit or SparkFun will have it. Robotshop.com, somebody will sell it through there. But it's another option as well to, again, easily plug into an Arduino and microbit or another microcontroller and just do easy controlling with this off 3 volts. Yeah. That's a really simple way of doing it. But it's saying, hey, Josh and Pete, you guys are smart. I have a crap ton, that's right, crap ton, of these little tiny micro blue servos, which is pretty much common. I call this almost the cockroach of servos. This is actually a metal one, a metal gear servo. Usually they're plastic gear. Get the metal when you can. That get a little extra torque. They're not going to break as easily. But you can find a ton of these guys on Amazon. They're called 9G because they're 9 grams in weight. But these are nice little micro servos. And if you have a ton of these already, or you want to, say, use just parts you have, or you have Arduino kits or whatnot you've purchased, because these come with any Arduino kit you buy, how do you then turn that into a Lego-compatible thing? Well,
don't.
Well, you don't.
Don't even bother.
No.
No. Hey, Josh, you don't even... No.
You're having too much fun over there, Pete. So I've seen people where they just glue like a Lego piece onto here, like a flat plate, just to make it receptive. And then that works really well. Hot glue, because whatever. That works. You can 3D print holders for these. Yeah. But the biggest issue is connecting the horn. The horn. What is this? It's not
the shaft.
The shaft.
Yeah.
The horn's what comes off of it.
Yeah. You attach a horn to the shaft. Yeah.
I say that shaft is one bad.
Watch your mouth.
Anyway, just talking about shaft. But there is actually a couple options out there. I couldn't find one because I think I threw them all away, but we used to laser cut our own adapters out of acrylic. Pete designed that years ago for us. It works okay. Yeah. And we'll get through the 3D files up, or not 3D files, the laser cut files for that up there. If you have a laser cutter and you want to do something kind of quick and easy, that's a good place to start. If you're like, I don't have a laser cutter, Josh, what can I purchase for that? Well, you have a couple options. The first option is going back to Adafruit again. Yay! This is actually a motor I got off Adafruit to make sure things work. But they actually sell this little... essentially, it's an adapter that goes onto here with a small screw to screw in place, but it goes to a female axle connector. Yeah. So it turns this guy into a longer axled version of this, but without the Lego connections. And I think these are like a couple bucks. They're nice. It's injection molded. It works. Yeah. It has probably a little more torque because it's metal gear on there, and they're easily. If you have a lot of them already, just grab some of these guys. Or honestly, you're probably gonna want to go with this anyway. Yeah. But if you want to use like a gear, other parts, yay, go for that. Or you can get this mindsensors.com.
Wow.
Mind sensors. Not Mind Hunter.
It's not even a sensor, is it?
No, it's not. It's an adapter. So this is from a company called mindsensors.com. And they, I think I'm missing a part too on this. Yeah, I am. Anyway, I'm missing some parts. No, I'm not. Maybe not. Whatever. So they sell a mounting kit to connect your servos to Lego, and this is actually a bigger one. We had some of these ages ago. This is a really old thing we've gotten, but Mind Sensors is around. They sell a lot of Lego stuff in general, but this is for a larger servo. But it's the same idea. They have this little adapter. You plop your servo in, the bigger servo. You screw it in place. This has the nice Lego connectors. Yeah. This is nice laser cut out of something. I think HDPE.
Let's see. No, you can't laser cut HDPE.
No? It's not acrylic.
Huh.
It's nice. It's a more plasticky material they're laser cutting out of. It's nicely done, too. But then they have a couple like adapters that work with your servo horn to then attach this kind of setup right here.
Yeah, nice.
Which works pretty well for adding in really servos is what this works. Gears are what this works really well for. You can just pop a gear directly onto here. Certain different sizes of gears, just and there you go. And you have this adapter where it works well. We did a much less fancy version of this when we made up our adapters.
Yeah.
It works. It works okay. It's not the cheapest thing in the world. That's the biggest downside, especially when these guys exist. Because you still need this plus a servo, and that gets pricey. These were not cheap. Well, last time I looked, but it's been a few years. But I liked the design. Just the price was just way too much for what you were getting. Oh, God, what is it, Pete? Guess
we
what?
have a question
Oh, my
from
God.
our old friend Kathy here. What is that Adafruit part?
Now, Kathy. So there's two things. Actually, by the way, Kathy. Can I call you Kathy? Kathy.
Your name.
Kathy. What I recommend doing is going to adafruit.com and just typing in Lego. Because they don't have many Lego things. You'll find like these two things, maybe another thing, but there's not much on Adafruit that is Lego compatible.
Yeah.
So this is just called Servo Adapter for Lego, and this thing is Lego Wheel. So just literally type in Lego on Adafruit, which is what I did when I found them. Like, well, Adafruit has anything for Lego. I was actually if they had any of these in stock and what they were selling them for at the time. But these work pretty well. Again, if you have servos already or motors, go for this. If you don't have anything or want to stay really, really, really in the Lego system, like building around stuff, Kathy.
Lego. Adafruit.
Lego, my ego.
Yeah.
Allergies. No, the COVID. But these are a good way to go.
Yeah.
Like I was even tempted to use these wheels with these when we were doing a couple different projects, but they were just too big for our little dude here.
Yeah.
But Adafruit makes a nice. This is the only one time I've seen people actually have these adapters at a decent price here in the U.S. Otherwise, it was 3D printing your own. And literally, this thing right here is this. You can find a 3D file for this on Thingiverse that goes kind of very similar to this to hook up to your standard servo. It's not going to be as nice as the injection one, but here's the thing. If you're already buying something from Adafruit anyway, you're like, hey, I'm ordering something from Adafruit, and you're like, okay, well, I want to throw a couple things on there, throw this on there, which is what we did. Because we had to buy anyway. I wouldn't say, spend the money on shipping just for that. You're finding it on Adafruit's website?
Just take a look real quick.
Let's type in Lego in there.
LEGO.
They've got a few Lego things now.
Adapters and stuff. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, look, they have a few more things than they used to.
Some mechanic wheels.
Ooh.
A couple of things.
But yeah, I mean they're nice, and I definitely recommend these wheels. They are fantastic if you have these types of little geared motors already. Again, but it's one of the things. It depends on what you have already, what your needs are. If you're a parent with a kid at home who just wants to make a couple things move, I mean, take your pick. Whatever's the cheapest route to go by and the easiest route to go by, and how much you're willing to invest time, effort, and money. Oh, they also have this too. There we go. I'm gonna point it with my finger.
So that lets you.
Yeah, that's
motor in there.
yeah, that's like a little clip-on for this motor to make it Lego compatible. To answer the question of how do you hook this up to Lego once you've got, well, you use that little guy to add Lego to top and bottom. Again, things people probably are 3D printing as well out there.
Yeah.
We've been trying to 3D print Lego stuff for ages, and I personally ran a lot of frustration because the parts are small. This is small.
Yeah.
It really is. Tolerances can be annoying, and they kind of break, especially when you add a lot of, if you try to really stress things out a bunch by running some gears or some heavy stuff, they do tend to break a lot, which is why we never started, we don't use these, haven't used these in ages. I mean, this little hookup right here was far more useful for the projects we've been working on the last couple of years than this adapter. Yeah. And I'd much rather use the Adafruit adapters than 3D print my own, just because of that quality difference of injection molding versus. I think even the best 3D printing is 60-70% of what an injection molded equivalent would be.
Maybe, yeah.
And that's if you're a super crazy. What's his face from the Milwaukee Makerspace who was really into 3D printing? Matt. We had a guy at Milwaukee Makerspace who was the 3D printing guy. That was his passion. This is a few years back, and he made some very high tolerance things for very specific purposes I won't mention. But even then, his super, super, super crazy quality 3D prints where maybe 70, 75% that of a similar injection molded part. And that's a guy who is obsessive about quality and getting his parts doing awesome versus, $2 on Adafruit.
Yeah.
There you go. It's just and cheap. BrownDogGadgets.com. We also sell these guys. Buy these from us. Now, if you're doing things with Arduino, just to make life easier, microbit, go with this route.
Yeah.
They're easy. They're simple. They'll run off 3 volts because we're doing that 3 volts on here with our microbit. These really want to be kind of, they're 3 to 5 volt rated. 3 volts is, they're a little underpowered, but it works fine for this. We have a bigger project we'll show off later, which is doing the exact same setup as this with a lot more weight behind it and complexity. It works. It's on the edge of not working. But it's a good way of doing things, and 3 volts is easy. 3 to 5 volts. Yeah. We even just run power directly from the Arduino to this, which probably is not the best practice in the world, but
for 2 little servos, it's okay.
They're nice. The Geek Servo is, I think, the best option out there. If you have a good reason to have one of these guys, go for it. But I have yet to find a good reason for our projects. Yeah. But I'm sure there are people who will see this and instantly know what to do with it.
Do we have 2 of those?
We have a couple of them.
Okay.
We've also got the red version too, which is just the standard dumb motor, which is literally the same thing but in this color red.
Yeah.
It just depends on entirely what you're up to. Yeah. But we sell these. Robotshop.com, which also sells our products as well, has them. But there's a lot of places that sell that thing. Yeah. Or Amazon has that stuff. I don't know if they have these from Adafruit, but that's literally the only options I've ever been able to find that are not official Lego. And I've looked and looked and looked and looked. I'm sure other people have. There's probably some other stuff out there I've missed, but these are the most reliable and reputable things I can find, and then 3D printing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the Lego parts too. The Lego stuff is nice, is really nice, but you have to use their 9-volt battery box, their setup, their connectors, and you can't really adapt that to a microbit. And their stuff tends to be a little more. You could buy a couple of these guys for the same price as a Lego motor. So,
I mean, their stuff is good quality, but it's also you're paying for that quality. So
it's Lego. They make really high quality stuff, but you pay a bit extra.
And if you want to do something weird or different, If
you want cheap, you get Mega Block. That's what you. Or you want to go super cheap, you get Lepin out of China. They have all the Lego knockoffs. If you don't want to pay $800 for the Super Star Destroyer Lego model, you go to Alibaba or eBay and get the Lepin version.
Lepin?
Which is like Star Stories or Star Assault. They change a couple words, but it's the same model to the letter. The quality is mostly there from the reviews I've seen. Yeah. But there's people online who review the Lepin version versus the US version. And I think the best guy has you know what? The quality is not the same, but $50 and I can buy it versus $300 and I can't find it ever. I don't really, especially if you're a kid or an adult who just wants a Star Destroyer. Who cares? But anyway, it's a quality difference and stuff. Like Mega Blocks, they're like Lego, just not as cool. Right. Mega Blocks, call us. We'll be your friend. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you have questions, email us about this stuff. Follow us here. This is just really a continuation of something I put up on Instagram 6 months ago. Just here's the different types of motors and ways we can do things. Yeah. But this is kind of helpful because it took me forever to find some of these parts. I know it's a question we get every now and then from teachers, which means probably a lot of people are wondering, how do I hook up an Arduino to Lego? It's easy these days. We're in the golden age of hooking up Arduino and microcontrollers to Lego. Golden age. As long as you want to pay shipping, UPS shipping from Adafruit or Amazon Prime if they have it. Yeah, Adafruit ones, I recommend them, or the Kitten Bots, whatever. But thanks for watching. We'll be back maybe tomorrow. We got to tear down our studio for a video.
I'll have something cool tomorrow.
Well, we had to tear down our studio tomorrow because we're doing a video shoot Monday and Tuesday for a big project we're doing. Okay, we'll do something tomorrow. Then we'll tear it down. All right, thanks everybody for watching. As always, BrownDogGadgets.com is cool. Hey Pete, you didn't throw up the no copper foil tape thing.
No,
copper foil die.
Foil.
Would be a live stream with us if we didn't hate on copper foil. Wah wah. Never.
All right.
Anyway, cool beans.
All right.
Tomorrow, this weekend. Bye everybody.
Thanks for watching. Please visit browndoggadgets.com for parts, projects, and curriculum. Follow us on social media at browndoggadgets. Check out our live streams at Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We'll see you next time.